Welcome back. I'm Hum Jim Harry. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe so you don't miss any content. Today we have the Cat Goddess bench, the Bastet 2.0 from Mikolo Fitness. I saw the Bastet 1.0 at Home Gym Con, and honestly, it seemed like a cheap bench, but they've done quite a number on the 2.0, so let's get into it. This bench was sent to me for free by Mikolo to test, but as you'll see, I'll give you my honest opinion. When it arrives, it's really in three different pieces. You have one side of the frame, the back part of the frame, which you have to bolt on, and then all the pads. Assembles in 2 easy steps. I laugh because the first step was very difficult. It comes with bolts that have nuts that have Loctite on them. They're very difficult to attach. I even tried with my impact driver and that didn't work at all. So I resorted to finding some 1-inch nuts that I had lying around, added them on, and now we're good to go. That's why the nuts on this bench don't match the black of the rest of it, because I just couldn't get them on. I really hope Mikolo gets rid of the Loctite on those nuts so it's way easier to assemble. I don't think there's really a need for it. I really love the red color. It's like an illusion cherry red, sort of like Dean is doing at Black Widow. Really nice. This is a solid bench. It's not going to really move on you at all. It's meant to support up to 1,500 pounds. Haven't tested that, but as for everything that I'm doing, it's really good. Now, the interesting feature about this bench is this pad back here says that it can hold up to 300 pounds. I've tested it to about around that. Seems to hold up fine. The pin that holds it together is pretty robust, so I'm not really worried there, but know that there is a limit to how much you can load up while putting all your weight on this little pad here. It weighs about 76 pounds, so pretty easy to move around, pretty light compared to some of the other ones, but very stable. These pads are very grippy, they're very firm. They're a lot like the rep pads, and in terms of some of the other specs, it's a 12-inch wide pad, so it's not a super wide pad like you can find on the rep benches or other companies, but it is a great width for benching and other things too. But if you're looking for an extra wide pad, this isn't the one for you. In terms of the height off the ground, it says on the website that it's 17 inches off the ground, sort of in line with IPF specs, but when I measured it, it's closer to 16. I find that actually really nice for benching because you can really put leg drive into it, but it's not in line with IPF specs, so it's not quite the 17. So if that matters to you, something to keep in mind. It has 11 back pad positions. This post at the back acts as the flat position as well as 2 decline positions, so you can get it to about -8 degrees there. It's a pretty good decline. I wish it was a little bit more, but I think then they would start having to need leg rollers on the pad and maybe push the bench up a little bit higher from the ground. There's 3 positions for the seat at the front. I think you get enough sort of incline there. The issue I do have with it is when the back pad is raised up to a certain degree, you can't raise the seat. So just keep in mind, past a certain degree on the back pad, you can only keep the seat pad flat. Despite this huge pad gap, which actually doesn't really bother me, you aren't able to use all the angles together, so it sort of limits the different combinations. Now, the very interesting feature about this bench, as you can see, is it has the short back pad and then this extra pad here. There's 5 positions for this extra pad, so it's a very easy mag pin to take out. There's one position where it's in line with the pad, another one where it's tucked down all the way 180 degrees from that, and then 3 in between. So you can, between the back pad and this extra little pad, really dial it in for whatever angle you want to use it for. So some of the things that I've used it for are curls. The pad really isn't wide enough to do 2 arm curls. You really have to do 1 at a time, unfortunately. Just something to keep in mind as you're looking at this bench for accessories. The other thing is, once you tuck the pad down, you can use it for tricep extension and things where you want to go over your head and not have a pad in the way. So if you're facing the pad, you can do rows that way and not have a pad in your face. The issue with doing that is that it's a little bit wide of a pad, so it's really good for benching, but not so good if you're trying to sit on it because you can't get your legs or your chest full around it to do rows. Now for tricep extensions, the pad, even when it's fully tucked down out of the way, I find gets in the way of doing overhead extensions, even with a light dumbbell. You can see the head of the dumbbell is hitting into this extra pad. I would much prefer if you could take off the pad instead of actually just folding it down. That way it's gone. It's not adding any extra width to the back pad, and you can get it out of the way, similar to how the Prime Shorty bench works, where the head pad sort of comes off totally. Now, overall, I think it's a great bench, really good for actually benching. I do wish it came in an extra wide version, but I understand that a lot of people don't like that, so I get why they don't do that. The pad gap is a little bit wide. It doesn't really bother me. I've had benches with wider, I've had benches with no gaps, but one of the things that I do find is this back pad, I think is a little bit too long. So if you compare it to something like the Iron Master bench, which has attachments that you put on, those attachments can be perfectly dialed in for whatever you want to do with it, whereas this pad is permanently here. But with a separate pad, it can be shorter. You can really lean back and get tricep extensions. So I think this bench is trying to do a lot, and it does a lot of it well, but it might be trying to do too much and sort of fall short on some of those other things. But overall, I think it's a pretty good bench. So I think I would much prefer a bench that has attachments rather than everything trying to be built in. But I really do think it's a great bench. Why it has 1-inch hardware, not exactly sure. I think it's to go with the overall premium look. It definitely has a premium feel to it with these knurled handles, the laser cut numbers and laser cut logos, the UHMW, where the back pad rests on the post. It doesn't actually have UHMW where the seat pad or this extra pad goes back. So that's one thing they may want to add in the next iteration. But overall, it has a lot of premium touches. The vinyl, the pad itself feels really nice. It had the ladder system so it can stand up and be stored away easily. But one thing that really comes short is the wheels. That's really the elephant in the room. These are way too small, and because they're so small, you have to get it exactly in the right angle when moving it around. It's not a heavy bench to lift up, but it is pretty annoying to have to get into the exact right angle off the ground to move it around. So Mikolo, please make those wheels bigger. I don't think you need the most expensive premium wheels either, but they just need to be a little bit bigger so that the feet don't interfere with the wheels and you don't have to get exactly the right angle. I do like that it has rubber feet on the ground so it stays planted. Well, this has been my review of the Bastet 2.0 bench from Mikolo Fitness. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below and I'll get back to you. All right, thanks for watching.